Hey there, it's Jerusha from Balance Muse. Welcome to my podcast series, Wealth Lab AI. A quick note about what you're about to hear. I created this audio conversation using Google's NotebookLM, an AI tool I use to study and break down complex topics. When I'm researching for my videos, I feed articles, transcripts, and other resources into NotebookLM, and it generates podcast-style conversations that help me to learn better. And I wanted to share some of the best resources I've curated about building wealth with you. Today's Deep Dive podcast features information from an interview featuring Raoul and Jordi Visser discussing how AI and global liquidity are creating what they call a prosperity revolution. This conversation explores why traditional economic models might not prepare us for what's ahead, and how crypto assets like Bitcoin could serve as anchors when currency loses value. Now, of course, none of what you hear on this channel is financial advice, but I wanted you to hear this conversation because it challenges how we think about money, technology, and building lives of ease. The original source to the interview is linked in the description below. Now let's dive in.
The world is moving at a speed that, frankly, feels disorienting. Every single day, there's just this fire hose of information hitting you. Macro instability, digital assets, tech leaps.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to understand.
It is. And we have to try, because right now there's this profound disconnect in the markets, in the economy.
A disconnect. How so?
If you're a traditional investor, you're probably confused, maybe you're cynical or just, scared. You're operating with these linear models, these rules that worked 20 years ago.
Right.
But the game has changed. The speed is now exponential, and that requires a completely new framework.
So that's our mission in this deep dive, to give you that framework. We've been looking at a stack of sources right at this nexus of macro, crypto, and this exponential age.
We need to find the anchors in the storm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially if you're struggling to even picture what exponential really looks like in practice. Because, there's that saying, Bitcoin doesn't find you, you find Bitcoin. You have to deliberately go out and look for this new reality.
And that search, it really begins with the one force driving everything else, the sheer velocity of AI innovation. People hear the term, but I don't think they grasp the magnitude of the acceleration.
I mean, we saw that quote from Elon Musk. It was stunning. He said AI compute capacity is growing at about 100 times a year.
100 times a year, let that sink in.
It's almost hard to comprehend. That's, 10x growth every 6 months?
Yeah.
Compounding on itself?
Yeah, and at that rate of acceleration, knowledge just becomes perishable. It's obsolete faster than ever.
So waiting for a book to come out on the topic is useless.
Completely useless. By the time it hits the shelves, the world has moved on. You have to be consuming daily content, podcasts, videos, research, just to stay on the curve. And look, this isn't some far-off theory. We're hearing heavyweights like Eric Schmidt and Elon talking about AGI.
Right, AGI arriving, in a couple of years? Not decades.
Exactly. And the scale is already here. You had Mark Benioff talking about the release of 1 billion AI agents.
1 billion.
Yeah.
Into the economy. That's immediate, real-world penetration. So, okay, if we need to consume information that fast, how are you actually using these tools? What works for you day to day?
Oh, they're embedded instantly. I mean, for me, Perplexity has basically replaced most of my Google searches. It just synthesizes information better.
Okay.
But the different models, they serve different purposes. I find Claude is fantastic for creating, let's call them long-term projects or offices, places where I need to keep context over multiple days. It's great at remembering.
And ChatGPT.
ChatGPT is better for real-time stuff, especially the voice function. I'll be on a walk listening to something, and I can just say, hey, I have this observation, capture it, format it as a note. It's built for that instant action.
Speaking of instant observations, that process actually led you to a fascinating historical connection, a real dot connection moment.
It did. It's one that ties this whole technological speed up directly into our broken macro system.
The two titans battling at MIT.
It's literally the battle between global deflation and global inflation. And they came from the same university at the same time. Think about the central bankers who defined the last few decades.
Bernanke, Draghi.
Ben Bernanke, former Bank of Japan governor Mario Draghi, all came through MIT in about a 5-year window. And they all internalized this idea of, erring on the side of too much liquidity.
The inflationary policy we've lived with since the GFC.
Precisely. But at the same time, also at MIT, you had Marvin Minsky, one of the godfathers of AI. He helped set up the Media Lab. And his work and everything that came after is the single most powerful deflationary force the world has ever seen.
So the architects of inflation and the engine of deflation came from the same place.
Out of the same academic crucible. And those two forces are what's ripping the global economy apart today.
That context is, wow, that's a phenomenal anchor for understanding all this confusion. And it brings us to your most, I'd say, provocative thesis, which is that outside of some huge unforeseen event, we can't have a traditional recession anymore.
That's right. But we have to be really precise with the language here. We need to get away from the mathematical garbage definition.
2 quarters of negative GDP.
Yeah, that stuff. A true historical recession, like the 70s, the Great Depression, even 2008, it's defined by mass deleveraging. It's when you genuinely can't get a job. And that traditional debt deleveraging cycle is now, I believe, fundamentally broken.
Okay, so why? Why is that cycle, which used to kind of cleanse the system, why is it dead?
It's dead because of 3 huge structural shifts. First one, central bank power. The Fed's balance sheet is now over $7 trillion.
Up from what, 700 billion before the GFC?
Exactly. They created these tools during the GFC, the bazooka, that lets them instantly backstop liquidity events. We saw it with Silicon Valley Bank. They stopped a credit crisis before it could trigger that mass deleveraging.
But wait a minute. If they have that much power, why didn't they stop the massive inflation we saw in 21 and 22? Doesn't that suggest their bazooka is, I don't know, a bit unreliable, or maybe it only works one way?
That's a very fair point. The power is targeted. They can print money to stabilize asset prices and bail out the financial system. That's what they see as their core job. Their tools are way less effective at controlling, politically charged cost-push inflation, but structurally they can stop that chain reaction of collateral collapse.
Okay, so that's number one. What's number two?
Second is cash-funded tech. The biggest tech companies are now worth over $10 trillion. That's up from maybe $1.5 trillion in 2009. And the crucial part is they funded that growth with cash, not debt.
So they're basically impervious to credit tightening.
Completely. The Fed raises rates, and these behemoths, they don't even flinch. And the third reason is debasement.
Debasement, explain that.
The whole system, as I see it, is a slow default. If you systematically just reduce the value of the currency by printing more of it, you optically prevent collateral from falling. Your house, your stocks, they might look like they're going up in price.
When really the dollar's just getting weaker.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that stops the vicious cycle. No collateral collapse means no margin calls, no forced selling, no systemic crisis.
So what we've done is we've traded that predictable cleansing recession for this permanent state of managed decline mixed with massive disruption. You call it a prosperity revolution. But that sounds like it comes with a huge social cost.
Oh, the cost is societal polarization. It's huge. The top tier, the people who own the assets and the technology, they're insulated. They're fine. But the bottom 70% of the country lives paycheck to paycheck.
And they feel the pain.
Deeply. They suffer from debasement through inflation, and they suffer from disruption. If you're a small business, you can't afford the AI that's destroying your margins. So yes, we are absolutely in a profound recession for many industries and for many people. It's just not the systemic collapse the central banks are set up to fight.
This brings us right back to that battle. The deflation from AI versus the inflation from central banks. You've suggested that U.S. inflation has probably bottomed and could bounce back to, what, 4 or 5%?
I believe so. The bottlenecks are still very real. The power needed for data centers, for example, is just immense. And you still have the human element demanding higher wages. But there is a massive external factor we have to talk about.
And that is?
China.
Wow.
China just announced a major new liquidity measure, a swap facility. Basically, it lets local institutions exchange their illiquid Chinese stocks for government treasuries. It gives them cash and encourages them to buy more stocks.
But the scale of this is what matters. You said it started at about $71 billion, but with leverage, the proportional effect is like a $2 trillion intervention in the U.S. market.
Exactly. And people are underestimating this. Look at the history. When China announced it was buying stocks back in August of '98, right after Russia defaulted, Chinese stocks went up 150 to 200% in 18 months. This is a huge deal for global liquidity.
And this connects to that grand bargain theory, right? The idea of global coordination. We've seen Newsom go to Beijing. Yellen has made multiple trips.
Yes. The U.S. needs global stability. They can't afford supply chain shocks or, God forbid, a conflict. And China, They need dollar access and growth to manage their own property crisis.
The system can't handle a catastrophe over something like Taiwan semi.
It can't. So whether it's fully coordinated or just opportunistic timing, the effect is the same. China's money supply, their M2, is already twice the size of the U.S. money supply.
And just for the listener, M2 is that broad measure of money. Cash, checking, all the easily accessible stuff.
Right. So a money supply that large, combined with policies that are strengthening their currency even as they're easing, it's just a massive injection of global liquidity. Their property market is still a slow Japan-style decline, but this stock market action creates real animal spirits for a year, maybe 18 months. It's a powerful tailwind.
Okay, so if the new reality is debasement, polarization, and this relentless speed, we need a digital anchor. And that's the pivot to Bitcoin. It survived a brutal bear market, it consolidated, and it's still making millionaires at just a crazy pace.
It's the essential solution for debasement, especially outside the G7. I mean, think about emerging markets. Brazil had 5 different currencies between 1986 and 1994.
5 currencies.
In those countries, you can't trust the bank, the government, or the currency. Bitcoin is the only non-government option that allows you fractional ownership and can truly offset that constant grinding debasement. And it's not just Bitcoin. Stablecoins are now the 16th largest owner of U.S. treasuries.
Right, they're a huge part of the ecosystem.
Yeah.
But the real game changer, the thing you've been focused on, is the convergence of AI and blockchain. You say they're inseparable. Why? What are the core connections?
There are 2. The first is authenticity. AI agents are getting terrifyingly good at deepfakes. Voice, video, documents. You get to a point where you can't trust what you see or hear.
A synthetic world.
Exactly. And to operate in that world, you must have an immutable layer to prove ownership, to track where something came from, to verify reality. Blockchain delivers that.
And the second connection?
Efficiency and micropayments. This is maybe even more powerful. AI agents are designed to destroy middlemen, just obliterate them. Imagine an AI agent buying a house for you, doing the legal work, insurance, banking.
All those agent-to-agent transactions.
They need instantaneous settlement. And they need to be able to make tiny fractional micropayments to cover their costs. And you simply cannot use the traditional banking system for that.
Too slow, too expensive, too archaic.
It's impossible. Only the blockchain can deliver that instant, near-zero cost, fractional settlement that billions of AI agents will need to transact every single minute.
And this leads to that ultimate societal division you talked about, the accelerators and the decelerators.
It's the new divide. Those who embrace and merge with this tech and those who reject it or just can't afford it. This technological divide, I think, is going to be far bigger than any political or economic divide we have now. That chaos we feel, it's this clash.
Okay, let's make this actionable. Where should people be looking?
Yeah.
What areas benefit from a weaker dollar, a business cycle recovery, and this new Chinese liquidity?
You look where the capital hasn't flowed yet. So small caps, emerging markets, and commodities.
Okay, specifically in commodities.
I'd focus on copper and silver. Copper is facing a huge short-term supply shortage. And that shortage is happening at the exact same moment we're massively accelerating the build-out of data centers.
Which need enormous amounts of copper.
Enormous. So you've got to set up for a potential short-term super spike in the copper price over the next 3 to 5 years. It's a pure supply-demand imbalance driven by AI.
But that spike only lasts until innovation catches up. Like you mentioned what Musk is doing with the Cybertruck, moving to 24-volt tech to use less copper.
Precisely. The deflationary force of AI will eventually solve the commodity problem, but there's a window. And silver, well, it should just benefit from the big breakouts we've already seen in gold and the continued strength of Bitcoin.
What about tech stocks? Megacap tech has been the leader for so long. What happens now?
Megacap tech might actually be the slowest in an uptape for the next 3 to 6 months. We could see a rotation out of safety and into what we call beat-up beta.
Riskier assets that could rebound sharply.
Yeah. So instead of the giants, you look for 2 things. Short interest and inefficiency. Look at short China tech's super high short interest, could see a violent recovery, or you target industries that are just massively inefficient.
And for that, you're looking at
Healthcare. Hands down. The U.S. healthcare system is just layers and layers of administrative bloat, billing complexity, bureaucracy. AI rollouts in that industry will create huge profit margin expansion just by cutting through that complexity. It's a prime target.
Before we wrap, You had one more piece of data that you said just destroys the old models, the LEI paradox.
Right. The leading economic indicator, the
Yeah.
LEI. It's designed to predict future economic activity, and it has been flashing recessionary red for 2 full years.
And that's never happened without a recession following.
It's the only time since the 1950s, and that confirms the whole thesis. The old linear models are broken. Why?
Right.
Because half the LEI's components are tied to manufacturing and old industrial inputs. They aren't the key drivers of the new exponential economy.
The old compass is pointing north, but north has moved.
Entirely.
So, to summarize the core takeaway from this deep dive, the incredible speed of AI is forcing a new macro reality. It's one defined by central bank debasement, a kind of slow default. And in that world, an uncorruptible digital asset like Bitcoin becomes essential for navigating the chaos.
It does. And here's a final thought for you to really consider. Given this constant acceleration, this disruption, this polarization we've talked about, that feeling that the world is breaking, the consumer confidence number will never go higher again in any meaningful way and stay there. You have to accept that the world is going to permanently feel chaotic. And that realization, that should be the foundation you build your life and your portfolio on.
A stark but probably necessary recognition of this new reality. Keep exploring these intersections. You can find more of this kind of analysis in the sources, including Jordi Visser's Substack, Visser Labs, and his YouTube channel, Jordi Visser Labs.
Right.
We'll see you on the next Deep Dive.